So I've been set a challenge, guys, to repair this carbon fibre from a crash damaged supercar. And some of this damage is pretty bad, unfortunately. So you keen-eyed car enthusiasts might have already spotted what these are off. But they're off an Aventador SV.
Wait for it. Here it comes.
So that's right, guys. These belong to Chris SLIX.
Someone wrecked £500,000 worth of Lamborghini and they tried to keep it a secret. Not anymore.
The Aventador SV. This is the most money I've ever spent on a car, and supposedly it was crashed at over 100 miles an hour. Carbon fibre everywhere. Carbon. There's a lot of damaged carbon fibre on this car.
Oh, really?
On the rear bumper, we've got a crack here. We've got some scuffing down that side. I think this side's actually okay.
Yeah.
But then we've also got these pieces. Doors. Get our door card off and figure out what we're going to do with that, because that is bloody expensive.
And broken.
Because as you can see, she got some nasty damage.
That don't look cheap, to be fair.
It's not. I don't know about this one. I'm a bit unsure, but I'm going to send it anyway. So we'll just see what they say. Hopefully it can be repaired. It'd really save a lot of money if we can.
Here I come. Oh.
Now that's where I come in. I'm the lucky guy that gets to repair this carbon for Chris and hopefully save him a lot of money. In fact, later on in the video, we'll find out exactly how much money. And I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. Turns out, new carbon fibre from Lamborghini isn't cheap.
No way.
Now, this damage gives me a good opportunity to show you guys at home how to repair damage in carbon fibre. So depending on how bad the damage is, the technique varies slightly. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to repair minor damage and more complicated damage, and maybe you guys will feel confident enough to give this a go yourself. So it's safe to say this car is absolutely plastered in carbon fibre. But unfortunately for Chris, it's not all in good condition. Some of this damage is very minor, easily repairable surface scratches. However, some of it is more severe. Some splits and cracks in the carbon. Some unknown holes have appeared in one of the parts. And in some cases, fully split through the composite layup. So fortunately for you guys, I'm going to show you how to repair all this damaged carbon fibre. I'm going to show you what techniques are needed, what materials you use, basically everything you need to know to be able to fix this damage at home yourselves. So I'm going to start, guys, by assessing every bit of damage and splitting them into categories. Now 3 categories to be precise. I'm going to split them into easy, medium and hard. So I've split them all into 3 categories. Let's start with the easy. Now unfortunately, Chris has sent me both of these. So this is an example of how it should look, undamaged. And this is one with scuffs on it. Now this one here should repair quite easy by just sanding some of the clear coat or the resin or whatever's on the surface, removing the scratch and then re-lacquering it in a satin finish, and that'll be as good as new. Now this one as a medium. We have a deeper scratch here, but that's not the reason why I put it medium. We've got a load of stone chips, a lot of chips on the edge. Again, I class that the same as the easy, so I'm not too worried about that. So all this stuff here is easy. Now why I've categorized this as medium is because of this. Now Chris tells me that shouldn't be there. That triangle section there should be just smooth weave. So therefore, just because of that, this is in the medium category. So these last 2 in the hard category, this one in particular. Now we have some minor scuffs on the end, which I would class as easy repairs. However, this is the one that's quite serious. And the reason for that is, it's split right the way through. You can see it right the way through on the back. Let me see if I can place this down. And if I push this away, you can see it's deformed and it's split all the way through. You also have some damaged lugs here, which need to be rebonded. And this one is also damaged. However, fortunately, if we look around here, the marks in the glue should make this quite easily to replace it back in the same place. So all I've got to do is put some fresh adhesive in there, clamp that together, and that will easily be back the way it was. So this one's going to take some reinforcing on the rear and repairing on the front to make this aesthetically pleasing. However, the one I'm most concerned about, let me move this across. This door card, however, is the one that's going to take the most amount of work. This is pretty damaged. Let me show you why. We have some pretty bad damage on the bottom, and it's bad enough that it's sticking out. Now on most supercars, I really wouldn't be worried about this because the door will be so low to the ground, and when you open the door, this is right underneath. It's not going to be seen or not very visible. But what's one of the iconic features of a Lamborghini Aventador? The door goes up, meaning when you have that door up, that is going to be very visible to the passenger. So as well as the damage under there, we have a load of damage here, scuffs and stuff up here, and some damage there. So it has to be perfect. That's going to take a lot of time to fix. Also, there's a lot more damage. So this stuff here, I'm not really concerned about. That's just surface scuffs. That on its own, I would have classed the same as the easy. That there itself was an easy repair. This, however, is pretty serious. Now, we have splits all around here and all down here. Now this is actually split all the way through. So this goes all the way through the door card and it's actually sticking out. It's really hard to pick it up on the camera, unfortunately. But you can see here, it's all sticking out. Now I'm gonna have to bond all that back together and reshape some of this and then re-skim it in carbon. Now the worst of it is here. Let me see if I can try and pick that up on camera. You see there's a big dent there. Now that should be seamless and smooth. So I'm going to have to repair all this area and relay some cloth all along here. And to make it even worse, there's a load of damage in there. So yeah, out of all the parts, this is going to take the most amount of work and definitely earns the hard category. Now that we split all the damage into categories, let's start getting this carbon repaired. So I thought I'd come outside as the weather's nice, and I'll start sanding this easy one just to show you how easy it is to get rid of these scuffs. And all we have to do then is after we remove them, we give them a coat of clear. So in the bucket here, I've just got some soapy water and some various grits of sandpaper. I'm going to start with an 800 and see if I can get rid of it with 800. See these two white scuffs here, these lines? There was two going down this way. Now they've removed by wet sanding. All I gotta do now is repeat the process for this. And there we have it, guys. All the scratches are successfully removed. Coat of clear now and I'll be as good as new. And that's all it takes to do the easy stuff. So just to show you guys I ain't been cheating, this was the one without the scuffs, and this was the one with the 4 scratches, which I've sanded and repaired. The one with more sheen to it is the one I haven't sanded, and this is the one I sanded and repaired. Now what I'll do next is sand both of these down and re-lacquer them as a pair, because satin is really hard to get a match. I'm unlikely to get a perfect match to this, so because these are a pair, it'll be better to paint them together. But that's the easy ones done. Time to move on to the next ones. So before I start fixing any carbon fibre damage itself, I've got a couple of things I need to bond or use structural adhesive to repair before I start fixing the carbon itself. Now to do that, I'm going to use some 2-part epoxy, VM100, and I'll use that to attach all these bits that are broken off. I've got this bracket here which needs rebonding, so that needs to be glued and clamped back on. And also, because we've got this bit here, which has got a hole for some reason, and we need to fill it, I'm going to use some of this structural adhesive just to fill that hole so I can apply the cloth on top. And it's simple to use. You buy these mixer nozzles, and once you screw it on, as soon as you pull the trigger, it'll automatically mix the 2 parts in this nozzle. But this is a one-use nozzle, so as soon as you use it, you've got to throw this away because it'll harden up. Now I'll leave a link in the description to where you can buy this. It comes from Easy Composites. Little tip, put the first bit on a piece of card just to make sure your mix ratio is correct, and throw that away. So I started by grabbing some clamps and test fitting before I applied the glue. And then I grabbed a sharp knife and scored all the areas to make sure we get a good adhesion. And I started going around each area, applying the adhesive and clamping everything in place. So that's it, all the bonds applied, all the structural adhesive. This was split, so I added some on there. That was pretty much loose or fallen off, so that's bonded back on. And this one was partially off, so that one's fixed. I used that to fill that little bit of a hole there. It's not very deep, so that'll be fine. This rail was detached on that end bit, so I've stuck that one on. There was a small split in the speaker grill there, so I've reattached that. And obviously this fastener here, it must be, I don't know what it's for actually, some kind of clip. That was loose, so that's been bonded back on. Now this two-part epoxy, guys, doesn't take long to dry at all, but at the moment we're going through a bit of a heat wave in the UK, so it's going to speed it up even more. I'll probably leave these now for like 2 hours before I come back and move on to the next stage. So with this part here, we've filled that with some epoxy. Now all I'm going to do is use some 80 grit sandpaper and basically sand it flat. And keep going until she's removed and all flat. And this is the result. The hole that was once there is now pretty much filled. I think before I apply any weave to the top of this, guys, I'm a bit dubious of this deep scratch. So I think what I'll do is wet sand this to make sure she's invisible before I put a patch on the top there and end up not being able to get rid of that and having to skim the whole thing. So I think I'll check this first. I think we've been pretty lucky. Now I've sanded that and it's pretty much gone. Well, it looks a little bit dull there, that's because I've sanded through the clear. But once that's got a bit of lacquer or clear coat on it, that will be pretty much invisible. But it saves me re-skimming this whole thing. I'd rather leave as much as possible as OEM carbon because really it's better quality because this is pre-preg and I'm not using pre-preg for this. So the next stage now is to get a section of weave and replace it like for like and get a join down here on that crease and you'll hardly notice it. And once sanded and blended into the other carbon and clear coated, that will be as good as new. We'll come back to this part later in the video. Now we'll move on to the harder parts. So guys, that's all the damaged areas bonded and repaired. So they're structurally sound to fit back on the car. What I want to do next is improve the rigidity behind where the major damage is. And to do that, I'll sand down the back and I'll apply some cloth and some resin on the back to stiffen up the area where it's cracked on the rear. And then all we've got to do is focus on the front for the aesthetics. And I've scored the back like this. Now the purpose of that is to create a key in the surface to make sure she's not smooth. The next part we stick to this adheres. Just grabbed an 80 grit disc. So before I go and cut some cloth and mix up some resin, you know there's a split here. Now what I want to do is I'll put some tape on the back here. So if any resin does flow through, it's not going to make a mess on the back of here and it's going to be hard to sand and then you start deforming the shape. So I'll just put a piece of tape here just to catch any resin that goes through the crack. We're ready now to start reinforcing the rear. This here looks to me like a 200 gram cloth because it's quite small. Whereas if you look at the rear of the door card, it's much bigger and this looks like a 650 to me. When I say 650 and 450, what that means is this one here is a 450, so per meter squared, that's 450 grams, and this one per meter squared is 200 grams. So you can see it's twice the weight, which means it's thicker woven pattern. So as these parts are for a Lamborghini, I think I need to try my best to make sure these repairs are as discreet as possible. Now what you saw me do there with the tape, guys, is make a template and a stencil basically, and that's the cloth I want to build up on the back to reinforce this crack. Now by making this template, it's easier for you to cut out some cloth. Now really important here, guys, if you're ever making any carbon fibre parts or reinforcing something like this, that you don't place the cloth in all the same direction. And what I mean by that is, if you look at this 2x2 twill, see how the lines are going that way? Now if you're going to put 3 pieces of cloth together, you don't stack all 3 pieces with the direction of the cloth in the same way. Now let me use this pen to show you what I mean. So if your first layer, your direction of your twill went like this, you do not want to put the second layer with the matching direction. You want to alternate, so put it like that. And if you're going to put a third layer, change the direction again. And what this does is massively improves the stiffness of the part by having the direction of the weave working in opposite directions. So note that if you're ever doing something similar to this. So what I'll do now with this template is I'll put one piece like this direction, one piece like that direction, and another piece like that direction. So I'm alternating the cloth to make sure we got maximum stiffness or rigidity in this reinforcing part. So you saw me cut out 3 layers of this stencil. Now they're all the same shape, but see here how they're all opposing angles? Now this will maximise the strength. So we're all prepped and ready to go and ready to carry out this repair. I thought I'd run through the materials with you. So as we're applying cloth to a surface, this is called skimming or laminating, and there's a specific resin designed for this purpose, and it's available from Easy Composites. It's called XCR. I'll leave a link in the description below. Easy to use, you just need a scales and a mixing cup, and the mix ratios are written here, and it's done by weight. Once we mix up the resin, we'll brush on some resin to the surface, apply the first layer, flood that coat, apply the second layer, repeat, flood it, another one, flood it, and then we leave that overnight to cure, and 24 hours time when we come back, that'll be rock solid, and that's the reinforcing back all sorted. So that's one repair done. Now we got to repeat the process on the door card and do exactly the same thing again, but using a different cloth. So for the door card, as most of the damage is in this corner here and down this bit here, I'm going to sand down all this, score it with a knife as I did with the other part, and I'm going to apply some cloth. Unfortunately, I haven't got any 650 because it's not a cloth I really use that often. The best thing I have is a 450. Now, I think a 450 in there, you're not really going to notice it that much. If I put a layer of that in, that's going to massively improve the strength of this part, and I don't think it looks too dissimilar. So I think that's all we can do. The inside of the door card is prepped, sanded, and all ready to go. We've cut some cloth ready. We'll mix up some resin and get it stuck on. So that's both repairs done. So if I give you a close-up of the reinforcement, this is a 200 gram cloth to match the 200 there. And on this one, we used a 450 in this bit. Although it's a 650, I think the 450 does really well. You wouldn't look at that and go, ooh, that's different cloth. So that's all the structural repairs done and the reinforcing. All that's left now is to leave these to cure for 24 hours, and then we can flip them over and concentrate on the aesthetic or the pretty stuff. So it's been 24 hours, guys, and it's absolutely baking here in England. We've got a heat wave going on, so let's go and see what this carbon looks like. Solid. In this heat, it's pretty obvious they're cured. You have to forgive me, guys, sweating profusively here. It's absolutely roasting. But it massively helps us with carbon when the temperature is nice and high. Solid repair, guys. So now we pull off this tape and start making this side nice and pretty for Chris. So you saw me put tape on the back side of the cracks just in case any resin got through. And here you can see the reason why I did it. You see that shiny line in the middle? That's where the resin flooded through. But by putting tape on there, it didn't go everywhere. And what it does Just filled that crack now, so I can sand this down, and then that will give me a nice smooth surface ready to carry out this repair. You've got two options. If this wasn't a Lamborghini, you didn't really mind too much about the deformation of the weave, what you could do here is sand this flat, build up the resin on here, and then basically re-lacquer this whole part, and you would just see a faint black line there. However, because this is a Lamborghini Aventador, this has to be pristine. What I'm going to do in this instance is, if I show you a close-up, there's already a factory join down this line here. So when they made this in a mould, there's one part of cloth here and one piece of cloth there. So there's a join along the edge. What I'm going to do is replace this whole section here with a new piece of cloth once I've sanded this smooth. And I'm going to mimic the join that was there originally. And when I repair that then with the new piece of cloth and build up some resin and sand it flat, that will be almost indistinguishable as being repaired. The only way you'd be able to tell is if you flipped it and you saw the reinforcement on the back. But once that's on the car, who's ever going to see the back? This, on the other hand, this is going to be a bit of a ball ache. So we have some major deformation to the surface here. In fact, there's a dip there, it's sticking out there. So what we need to do with this is sand it all flat, probably add a little skim of body filler in here to get the shape back right. And then this, as per that one, I'm going to follow the OEM lines. This one, the line runs along the bottom of here, up around there and across this edge. So I'm going to replace that whole top section with a new piece of cloth, matching the weave direction and mimicking exactly what was there from the factory, and it should be really invisible. On the end here, do the same, sand these cracks down, fill it, and then replace that bit matching the weave direction and matching the join up there. Now after I've sanded it flat, you can see how bad the damage was. So you've got a major crack there, which obviously we repaired from behind. There was so much difference in level here I had to sand all this bit down to get it to go flat. So that needs to be filled. And then up on the top, you can see there was a massive deformation and weave there and down here. So I'm going to have to put a bit of body filler in here and here to try and get this smooth. So the idea is, don't get overwhelmed by how much damage there is. Just keep tackling it one section at a time and keep progressing until you get to the end. And when I say one section at a time, I just mean one repair at a time. And if I show you, the factory join is there, straight line all the way up here. And if I can try and get the camera angle right, there's a join up there. You can see where the difference in weave direction, so the join line goes up there and along the top of that edge there. Now you see that door card and you think, oh look at that, it's all one piece. If you actually look up close, you can see the join right on the edge there. See it? Where the two go to a V. If you try and mimic putting the joins on lines like that, it helps hide them. Right, before we put any weave on top of this, I need to fill that groove that I've just created and sanded. Now to do this, I use bumper filler or bumper Bondo. Now there's no real reason why I use this. It's not because it's stronger. The only reason is because it's black. Now if you use any body filler on here that's not black, when you put a cloth on, you've got a chance of you seeing through it. So if you have like a white or a yellow body filler, when you put it on there, you'll get pinholes through where the woven cloth is and you'll see that white. So here's the area of body filler I've used, or Bondo. That's the bottom crack. That's now smooth. Now with this part, the next stage is to prepare this surface to lay a piece of cloth on here to hide this crack. So what I need to do now is sand this area to make that smooth. Unfortunately, sanding it's not been enough. Where the resin's really hard and the weave is a little bit softer, there's a little bit of imperfections in there. So I'm going to have to get a little bit of body filler and just smooth that out a little bit to make that as seamless as possible. So I'm using body filler, guys, just to make sure she's perfect before I place the weave. It's certainly a lot of work, but I dread to think how much this part would be from Lamborghini if you can buy it. A lot of work, guys, but you can definitely do this at home. Nothing I'm doing here is anything that you couldn't do at home. So both parts are all prepared, ready to lay up some cloth. And the filler looks really white, but trust me, as soon as you add some resin, it goes black. But there was a fair bit of damage on the corner of that door card, and the same for this really. So where I've sanded it is going to be where the cloth gets stuck, along that edge, and that little triangle there. And the same on this, I'm going to go to that front edge, all the way along and round for that piece, and then once that's laid, I'll do a piece in there. So we're all set to start laying up some cloth, pretty much. But one of the big things we need to do now is decide which cloth best matches the OEM cloth that Lamborghini have used. So I've got 3 cloths here in stock. The 450 is definitely way bigger, so it's not that one. Now this is the 245 and this is the 200. It's got the right spacings. If you look, 1, 2, 3, it's all matching. Whereas this, it's a lot thicker. That one band there is almost as thick as 2. So this 245, this one here, is the cloth we're going to use. So I'm going to have to apply a layer of that XCR resin, which I used previously in the video. And obviously if I start putting resin on this, it's going to run everywhere. So what we need to do now is mask up everywhere you don't want any of this resin to go. Try and rest it so that the resin can go flat. So we need to rest that on something like this after it's masked. We're all set, guys. We're ready to lay up some resin and some cloth. We'll use the same resin we used earlier on in the video, which is called XCR. Now we'll mix it up and we'll apply it to every area we sanded and we've masked up. So the plan with this XCR resin is once we apply it, I'll set my alarm for about an hour's time. Be careful in the heat like we have today because it might go a bit quicker. But we'll come back in an hour's time and we'll touch it. If it comes off on your finger, it's not ready. But if when you press it, it's tacky and you pull your finger away, nothing comes off on your finger, but it leaves a fingerprint, that's the perfect time to get the cloth. So we'll cut some cloth ahead of the time. So we'll get an area roughly that big with the right weave direction and we'll put it to one side so that when we come in and it's tacky, we're ready to go. So once we've mixed up the resin, guys, just brush it on. Now see how instantly the weave direction comes back. Now look at this area here, this is where the scuffs were. As soon as you put the resin on, and let the resin flood in, you wouldn't even know the scuffs were there. That's all the resin laid up, guys. Almost forgot this part, lucky I remembered. So may as well do this the same time I'm doing everything else. So what I'll do now is I'll set my alarm. See you in an hour. A really good tip for you here if you ever try skimming or even laying up cloth in a mould. Now if I show you this piece of cloth that I cut, if you ever try cutting it and trying to keep a straight edge, as soon as you touch it, all the edges fray, look. And if you ever try pulling the parts round a shape, you can make holes in it and it distorts, which is not pretty. Now you can avoid that by simply doing something, by spraying something on the back, it stabilises the cloth. Now if I pull this one, the edges don't fray. You can cut a straight line and it doesn't fray. Now stabilising cloth is easy. Let me show you how I've done it. The product you need is Fusion Fix. Now you get this from Easy Composite. So you give the can a good shake and basically lightly dust the back. Leave that for 10 to 15 minutes until you can feel when you put your hand on it, it's not sticky, and then you can roll it back up. So if you roll the whole cloth out, spray that in the back, wait for it to dry and roll it back up, this stabilises the weave. It's been about an hour. I've come in to check to see if it's ready to start placing the cloth. Sticky and nothing comes off on my finger. This is the perfect time to place the cloth, so we've got no time to waste. Let's get stuck in. So I've overcut this really, but I need to make sure that we get this perfectly aligned. So there we go, guys. That was quite stressful at times and I was under a bit of pressure to get this all aligned, but we have that nice big piece there laid up. We have the bottom of the door card laid up. The little triangle there on this piece that was damaged, and then this piece laid up. So what I'll do now is leave it an hour, come back, and then I'm going to apply a thin layer all over every bit of the cloth, and I'm going to leave that 24 hours, and when I come back I'll show you the next stages. So it's been about an hour, guys, and it's the perfect time to apply the first coat of resin. So let's get mixing. There we go, first coat of XCR applied. Once we build up enough resin on this, it's going to look superb. We'll come back in 24 hours once this is dried. It's been 24 hours and the resin is all dried and cured. Now I could have put more resin on this yesterday, but there's a specific reason why I stopped at one coat and I left it to cure. Now you'll see there's overhangs everywhere. On this edge, and that edge. Now if you build up more layers of resin, this is really hard to cut and trim, and you end up making a bit of a mess. By only putting one layer on, we can grab a sharp blade and score up there, and you have a neat, really nice cut. So I'll go around this with a sharp blade now and trim off all the excess, and then we'll move on to the next stage. So you saw me cutting the excess off. Now the aim is to cut it so you just get rid of the tape and you leave an edge like this. It looks a bit of a mess, but trust me, when you put resin over this, that joint there will be invisible. Now again, because I needed to do a cut down here, if you tried to cut that dry, it would have been near on impossible. But by putting one layer of resin on and waiting for it to cure, you can get a sharp blade, slice, snap, and you end up with almost a pre-preg looking joint. So as I'm putting resin on here anyway, to blend this part in, and we've got a load of scuffs and scratches on the end of here, I may as well use the resin to flood these to repair this as well, as opposed to using a clear coat or a lacquer. It'll be more durable, and I'm putting resin there anyway, so it makes sense. So what I'll do next is I'll sand these down to prepare these ready to put some resin on. So where I've got the edge here, now this isn't going to be very noticeable because you've got such a sharp edge, and the weave goes up and then into this one. Because that's such a defined point, it's going to be quite easy to blend that. However, this part is going to be a bit more obvious, so I need to make sure I get a nice straight cut along here so that it looks as clean as possible. This is all prepped, cut, sanded and ready for resin. This is the same, that's all trimmed and ready for resin. This one, however, we still got to lay some cloth on this one, on the end here, because it was all split and cracked and damaged here where I had to fill it. So I'll score the edge off this one, peel all our masking tape off, prep this. So you can see the bit I've left, that's the bit I plan to stick some cloth to. Now you're probably asking, why haven't I skimmed this whole part? Why am I just doing that part? There's a nice defined edge there, so you could blend this easy to cover it up. But not only that, I don't want to add too much cloth and too much resin to this because it's going to make it heavier and thicker, and I don't know how tight this is in the dash, so by only adding a piece in there, I minimise the risk of this being a bit thicker and it may clash with the dash or not fit the car properly. So I'm only doing that bit, but as long as I follow the weave direction exactly, it's going to blend in perfectly, so not to worry. Before I apply the resin, guys, I just want to show you a before. So you've still got the scuffs. You can see where I've just done that join in there and there. And you can see the join on the front edge. So the idea is to add like 2, maybe 3 layers of resin to these and add the cloth to this one. And we'll have to come back to this one tomorrow to finish off the rest of it. So that's the first coat of resin applied on these 2 parts and the tack coat applied to that one. So I'll set my alarm for about 50 minutes because it's absolutely boiling. It's normally an hour, but I'll come in a bit early just to be safe. 50 minutes time, come back and we'll apply the next coat. I see the joint on the front, you can't see it. The triangle. Once you get resin on it, it all blends together. It's been about 55 minutes. I've come back into the unit to see if this is touch dry. Nothing on my fingers. And if you hear that sound, perfect. So I've applied the cloth to the end of that one. Now I'll leave that and I'll put some resin on the other two parts. Picked the wrong week for this, guys. Jeez, it's roasting. Anyway, coat number 3. I think that'll be more than enough resin on there. You can see it's pretty shiny and smooth. Once that's sanded, it's gonna look $1 million. Even the repairs on the end. I hope you guys at home see this is nothing really technical. What I've done is quite straightforward. You could definitely do this at home. I mean, the most technical thing I've done really is selecting the right weave and picking the orientation to best hide the damage. Nothing I've done really is complicated. Certainly something you guys could do at home. Repairing damage to carbon is far easier than making something like this. I mean, I made this carbon bonnet. That's a lot of work to get a finish like that. Repairing damage to your splitter or whatever you've got, easy really. The most important attribute I'd say you need is patience. Patience, just take your time, plan what you're going to do and just give it a go. I've left the unit for a couple of hours. This is dry, that's dry, and that's dry. So I'll put these to one side and I'll focus on finishing this. This is pretty much done now. All I've got to do is sand it and clear coat it. Same with that. That's pretty much done as well. So bearing in mind I had a big hole there. So that's pretty much done. I've got to jump on this next. This is the last part. So let's clear the desk and finish this off. I've got to trim off the excess in there. Finish trimming off this edge. I've got to trim off along there and then it's basically start sanding it down. There is one repair left apart from the ones I've covered, which is this one, and there's a little bit there. Once I've trimmed all this and got it prepped, I'll show you how I intend to fix this one. We're pretty much done now. The home's straight. Most of the labour's done. Now I'm not sure if you remember from the start of the video, but there's one more repair that I haven't shown you how to fix yet. So you've got these two chips. One there and one there. These are just chips in the resin. And I think if we get a scraper, something sharp, to flick off the loose stuff where it's white and crystallised, once you flood on some resin, it's going to go clear. Have faith. So I used picks to scrape out all the loose resin, any of the clear, like crystally looking resin. Now what I need to do is I'll sand that area around there. So wish me luck with this. I think it'll work. Worst case scenario, I've got to put another piece in there. Not the end of the world, but I'm kind of hoping I don't have to do that because it'll be a bit of a pain to put another piece in there. And then I'll probably take this in the kitchen and wet sand it all and scotch it all off to make sure there's none of these shiny bits because you need a key everywhere. Bearing in mind, I've only wet sanded this. What do you reckon on this? So we had major damage there, damage all down there. Once that's got 3 or 4 coats of resin on it and it's clear coated, you're never going to know that was damaged. Certainly been a lot of work and the sweat is pumping at me, but we're getting there. Here we go, final stage. We'll try and get 2 to 3 coats on this. And I think we should be done then. All we've got to do is sand down the parts and clear coat them. But we'll see what this looks like with 3 coats of resin on it now. First coat of resin applied, 1 down, 2 more to go. Let me give you a little close-up look to see how it's looking. Again, it's still going to be rough because it's only had 1 coat. But bearing in mind there was all cracks here and splits down here. I was going to give her a 3rd coat, but I don't want to wait another hour I'm getting a bit tired. So what I'll probably do is leave this to dry, and tomorrow when I sand it down, if there's any areas that need a bit more resin, I'll do it tomorrow. But yeah, pretty pleased with how it's looking so far, guys. I think it's looking pretty well. Still got a bit of texture, but when you sand it in the next layer, that'll go.
After coat number 2.
Forgot to show you that crack. It's hard to see now because it's still not filled full of resin, but after scraping all the loose stuff off, I think we might get away with that repair. We'll see after the 3rd coat. So after attempting to do these 2 repairs here with just applying resin, I've come to the conclusion that I'm not happy. Now this one here, this one's pretty good. It's 98% covered, and I think you'd really struggle to notice it was there. However, this one here, I'm not pleased with it. So what I'm going to do now is replace this section there. So all this just for that little mark. But I believe Chris will be selling this car, so I need to make sure she's perfect. This is going to be a pretty tough one because we've got a ridge inside there and all the resins want to flow down, but it'll be hard, but it'll be worth it because it'll look new again. So I'll stick some resin on, wait for it to go tacky again, and then come back in and apply this. And that should be the last section of this door card, and this door card then just needs sanding and clear coating. In an hour, I've come down to check to see if this resin's tacky so we can apply the cloth. And that's perfect. That's just the right amount of sticky so we can apply this cloth. Before I put some resin on, let me just show you. So that's a piece of cloth applied on the worst of the damaged area. Now applying the cloth was the easy bit. The hard bit is making the cut. Now we've got to cut this along here, down there, up and up here. Now this cut is very important because if you cut it too short, you may see the join underneath from where the old carbon was. But if you cut it too long, the join's going to be inside past the corner groove here, and it's going to be more obvious. So this is a really crucial part. Right, so that's the hard bit done, the cuts. So now what I've got to do is sand this part down to make a key to let the resin stick for the next layer, and I'll sand all this bit down as well, and I'll give the whole thing a coat of resin just to allow me to build up the differences between this thickness and the original carbon, and I'll be able to blend it in ready for the lacquering coat. But yeah, we're almost there now. I'm quite excited to see what this looks like once we put resin on it. She's all prepped, ready for the final coat of resin. So I've sanded this nice and smooth, ready for the last coat. Same here. I've only give this a light scuff because it's only had 1 coat. So you can't get it as smooth as this because there's a lot of low spots and you'll sand through the weave. I'm hoping these joins look okay once I put resin on, fingers crossed. But this is the exciting bit now, guys. When you put this resin on, you'll really see what the door card's going to take the final look of. So let's mix up some resin and slap it on. So here's the first coat applied. Now bearing in mind it's not going to be smooth yet. But that repair in there, the joins, it's hard to really see, but it's mimicked the original, so I don't think it's looking too bad. Time to apply coat number 2. So now all the carbon repairs are done with the cloth and the resin. I've brought the parts into the paint room so we can finish them off. So what we're going to do here is sand all these parts and paint them with a clear lacquer. The first thing you may notice is I've left all the excess on this part. You're probably wondering why. Now the reason why I tend to leave the excess cloth on till the very end is because we placed the resin when it was upright like this. All the resin drips off the side. Now if we didn't have that excess there, all the drips would stay on the part and congregate on the edge of the part and have a thick bunch of resin. Now by maintaining this excess till the very end, all the drips and the stuff you don't want to stay on the edge of the part stay on the edge of the bit which you're going to cut off. So it makes it far easier for this next stage if the drips are not on your part itself. Bit of a mess now guys, but trust me, once we sand this down and give it some clear coat, it's going to look $1 million. Well, there's a fair bit of work to do, so I better get sanding. Well, I think the first thing I'm going to do is cut off all the excess. So when I rip this masking tape off, you can see here that we've got about 10 or 15 millimeters of excess. So I'll get a cutter and cut it along there to get rid of that excess. And then all these drips will be cut out easy and you won't have to sand them out. So now that the excess is cut off, I better start sanding them down. Here we go guys, the part's all sanded, ready for the next stage, which is wet sanding with 320 to try and get rid of the 180 marks. And then we're ready for a coat of clear. This part's all sanded, ready for clear coat once it dries. Already it's looking $1 million compared to what it was. So that's this one done, let's move on to the next one. And here we have the next one. Now that's the hard graft done. Now for the wet sanding with some 320. This is it after wet sanding. It's looking pretty good to be fair. So we're all set, ready to put the first coat of clear on. Now this is a sacrificial coat, so I'm going to put this on and leave it for 24 hours, sand it back and then put the final coat on. Now the reason why this is a sacrificial, it helps even out any of the sanding marks, plus also some of these parts need to go in a satin finish. So this is the only part, the door card, that goes glossy. So what I'll do is I'll paint all these glossy today and then tomorrow I'll split them into two. I'll paint the satin finish and the glossy finish separately. So the sacrificial coat's gone on. Got a few runs, but I'm not too bothered because I got to sand it anyway. As you can see, they're all glossy. Bearing in mind there was a big split up there. no longer there. And there's a load of scuffs on the edge of there. They're all gone. So we're getting there. I'll leave these for 24 hours now to fully cure and harden, and then I'll sand them down again, and then we'll split them and do the satin and the gloss door cards. And there we go. She's ready for the final coat of lacquer. Chris is saying his body shop's going to lacquer them to get them satin finish. I won't bother lacquering them again, I'll leave them for the body shop. But as these three here were the ones that had extensive repair. So we got the door card, the rear bumper spat, and the vent from the Aventador. These all need a final coat before we take them back. So let's mix up some paint.
좋으셨어요. 체크인 아웃!
Far from perfect, guys. My painting's not as good as the body shop Chris was using, but considering all the damage that was on there, it's a pretty good save. And these are going to be re-lacquered by Chris's body shop, but bear in mind there's a massive split down there and some deep scuffs on there.
(2000) grit wet sanding. Followed by machine polish, heavy cut. Followed by machine polish, fine cut. Remember the before.
Here are the results.
Let me know in the comments what you think.
So that's my work on these carbon parts done. It's time to hand them back to Chris and his body shop. Right, time to take all this back to Chris. Let's go meet one of my idols.
How much money did I save, Chris?
How much refurbishing all this stuff is actually going to save us, because parts of this car are expensive, but I didn't realise how expensive they are. So here are all the different things which we are sent off for refurbs. We've got the carbon, the suspension, the dash, the front frame, the brake calipers and the radiator. Let's do the carbon fibre, which we need repairing. I haven't done every single bit, but I've done the main bits on here. Door card, 6,700 plus the VAT. The rear bumper trim, £7,500 a side. Plus the VAT. There's just I've only done the 3 bits.
That's literally outrageous. How much carbon's on that car?
A lot, yeah. We sent quite a bit off to get refurbed as well. So that in total works out to 7.5 plus 7.5 plus, what was the original? About 8-ish. So that's £23,000 just for 3 bits of carbon. And that's not including all the little bits which we sent off too. So that's a good whack.
To the Batmobile.
From Taunton to Guildford, 120 miles away.
We're almost to Chroma Concepts, which is where Chris's Lamborghini is being painted and restored. Where we gotta go, Sam? The left here? Can't see the place.
I guess by the cars that are outside.
I see Porsches, yeah. There's Chris there.
Yeah.
It's better already because I can't see a hole.
So obviously he was cracked all the way down there. I think he was just wrecked all in general there.
Yeah.
So I've reinforced all the rear view.
Lovely.
Rebonded that. Fixed the crack down there, and basically, yeah, that was all wrecked, so I've bonded that back on.
Lovely stuff.
So yeah.
That looks a bit better than before, doesn't it?
It looks like a different door car.
It does.
That's one.
Tidy.
I believe it was this side.
Fantastic. Oh yeah, can you split that down there, wouldn't it?
Reinforced,
Yep.
re-glued, re-glued, re-glued.
That's solid now. Now these are in gloss because we came to the conclusion that because these guys are really clear coating and stuff. Mitty's making a right Matt.
Lots to do with it.
A right racket. Yeah, we decided because these guys are re-clear coating some of the carbon bits anyway in the satin, it'd be best if they did it so all the satin match.
Yeah. It's going to be hard for me to match otherwise, yeah.
Is this about ready to stand, do you think, now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been painted for a good, I don't know, 15 hours, so yeah. Should be solid, yeah.
That looks great. Couldn't even tell, could you?
No, it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I did basically, there was an OEM join down there and down there. Okay. I just replaced exactly the same piece and along the edge of there, look. So it's exactly where it was, so I haven't changed anything.
Yeah, it looks unreal. I'd love to learn how to do that.
Yeah, trust me, if you'd seen me,
have the patience.
if you'd seen me a few nights last week, you wouldn't.
You had a full head of hair before.
Yeah.
I've got a man for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have.
That's unreal.
Obviously, these are all gone. Chuck them back in.
Okay, go on.
A bit too, very much like, again, satin finish they're required, but it's easier to paint it all in one.
Absolutely, so you know it's going to match each other.
Thing is, with satin, you could put 10, 20, 30% in, and I don't know what they're going to pick, so and it'd be better for them anyway, really.
100%.
Yeah, no worries.
It saved us a fortune.
Yeah, I did see the third video and you put a price up, and I was just like,
yeah, that wasn't even all of these
I was
bits.
quite surprised though that this was more expensive than that. Yeah. I was quite shocked. How is that more expensive than?
Probably because that tends to get damaged more.
They can sell it for more money. Yeah, it makes sense. It does make sense.
I think it looks really good in gloss.
It does.
Like,
I think satin carbon looks really smart.
Floor carbon looks good though.
Yeah, looks unreal.
We get these inside.
should we carry some parts inside? Mate, it seems weird. I've been watching you on YouTube for so long, and now it's weird. Mickey, I feel like I know you already. You right, mate? You right? Look at that. I've been seeing you two play with this for weeks now. How cool is this? Hell of a car, mind, isn't it? Has it had a full respray? Full respray. All I remember is carbon fibre, carbon fibre, carbon fibre.
Yeah, I'm glad this isn't broken. Really glad.
Mate, this is unreal.
It is, yeah.
That's yours, isn't it?
It is. That's what I want to chat to you about it as well.
All right. Okay.
Can we have a look?
Sam, next job. Oh man, look at that. Cheers, Chris. See you again, mate.
Thank you.
No worries.
We do that in a less awkward way, maybe.
All right, how do we do that?
I think the laugh made it. You just leave all this in on anything.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Right, cheers, Chris.
Thank you, mate. Thanks
See you
for
again.
doing it.
No worries.
Thank you, everyone.
For an absolutely surreal ending to this video, guys, I got to meet Chris and Mickey and see the Lamborghini. I've been watching these pair for years on YouTube, and I can't believe I got to meet them both. Incredible. What a pleasure. And don't forget to press that like and subscribe button, guys, and feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you think of this video. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.